I'm Kristen Andre, founder and chief strategist of Andre Consulting Group. I founded my company almost 10 years ago because I love helping people not only succeed, but thrive in their careers and their lives. So many times I meet amazing people who have so much more potential than what they're utilizing. As I engage with them, there seems to be a common theme: the limits they place on themselves. Throughout this podcast series, we're going to visit some incredible people who have created more intentional lives for themselves, those who've had that no limits moment where they chose to grow and they put things in motion to help them do so. We will focus on how you can break through limits. We will equip you with strategies to help you lead a more intentional life, and we will have a lot of fun along the way. So let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are here today with Ashley Valdes of Willow Ash, which is a jewelry line, which I am super excited about. So I came across this when one of my girlfriends posted this very cool, I got my necklace on. So for those of you guys that are watching on live stream, you get the advantage of seeing the jewelry. But she had posted on Facebook, and it's the cool jewelry. Like really.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. I like it. But what I was intrigued by was, I of course was like, all right, got to buy me a necklace. But when I went to your website and kind of learned more about you, you've got a really interesting story, of how you came to do this.
I guess a couple of years ago, I went through a pretty rough divorce and everything.
Yep.
And I moved back to Georgia.
Which is tough. I've been there. It is not an easy time. Yeah,
it is not. I was married for 11 years, and we tried, and it just was better if we parted ways. Yep. So I was in Colorado at the time, even though I am a Georgia native.
Okay.
I moved back to Georgia to be closer to family and my friends and everything, to have some support for going through everything. And
sure.
I have 3 boys. They are almost 11, 7, and 3. And my middle son has been quite a challenge for many years. It started when he was 3, and I just casually mentioned how difficult he was to my pediatrician and how the school was constantly calling me and things like that. And so she mentioned that he sounded like he might have Asperger's. And so that kind of set me on the journey to get a diagnosis for him. And throughout the couple of years, I started trying to get a diagnosis for him when he was 3, and he just turned 7. And 2 weeks ago, I got a diagnosis for him for autism and ADD. So it's been quite the journey trying to get there.
But think about that. That's four years of just trying to get. It almost becomes a full-time job.
It's exhausting
to advocate for your kids and figure out what's going on, because you're just trying to help them.
Exactly.
And figure out what in the world's happening.
Yeah. So in school in Colorado, he got, I don't want to say kicked out, but he was asked not to come back to that school.
Yep. Which is really common, I think. Yeah, right. I think that's very common for people with autism spectrum disorder.
It is. And then we put him in a larger school. It's a preschool that had, more staff and accommodations for him.
Sure.
They would let him come in before the rest of the class and put his backpack away, so it wasn't quite as overwhelming and things like that. And then so I started seeking a diagnosis, and then about that time we decided to part ways, and so
you had to move and everything.
Yes, I packed up my van with my kids and as much as I could, and I drove across country by myself 22 hours to come back to Georgia.
Yep.
And so I had one that was nursing at the time, and that was just, it was a journey
challenge
to get back.
Yeah, no kidding. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Talk about overcoming limits. That's it's a lot, but so many people have personal challenges like that, and you don't think, because a divorce is not an easy thing. I'm divorced, and I did the same thing. I moved back to Georgia when we were going to be going through the divorce, to be closer to family and friends, because you can't function and do everything by yourself.
Exactly.
It's just impossible without a support network.
Yeah, so when I moved back to Georgia, I put Oliver, his name's Oliver, I put him in a preschool here. He went for 1 day
Yep.
And they asked me not to come back again because he hid under the table, and he has a little lovey giraffe and covered his ears, and they just said this is not the environment for him. So I found another preschool.
One.
So it's just like constantly jumping place to place to place. And then he started kindergarten, and that was insanely stressful because he didn't have a diagnosis, but he needed help and he needed to be in special ed. And so the school was so great. I mean, they did as much as they possibly could for him, but he needed more. Like he needed to be, and you know, they have all of these routes that they have to go through to get him into special ed. There's so many evaluations that they have to do. And so I was just really stressed. I would cry all the time. Like, I just want to help him, but you know, it's a waiting process. And so through that, my boyfriend at the time, he's now my fiance, he encouraged me to do something, to have a creative outlet. And so he's like, you love jewelry, you should just like try to make something for yourself. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea what to do. So it all kind of started with me buying things and taking them apart and figuring out how to do it. And then I just bought some materials and stuff, and I made something for myself. And I made an agate, and then I wanted stamping materials as well. So I had bought some stamping kit, and then I just came up with this, and he said, wow, that's really pretty. You should try to put it on Facebook and see if any of your friends, you know, make some extra income or something. And I was super self-conscious about it, and I thought, nobody's going to want to buy this. Like, it looks like crap. I don't know what I'm doing, you know? And so I put a picture of it on Facebook, and within like 5 minutes, I had people sending me messages in my inbox,
orders.
like wanting to order things. And so initially, I started out doing a lot of custom orders. When I really got the ball rolling was around Mother's Day. So I did lots and lots of Mother's Day and children's names and birth dates and that kind of thing. And I enjoyed it, but it didn't really feel like that was the right route for me to go. And so I just was trying to figure out, like, okay, who do I want my audience to be? And so through that, I started drawing inspiration from the difficult time through the divorce and trying to advocate for Oliver and things like that, and just things that I had been through myself.
Which I would think that just tons of people have been through. I mean, they're big things, but a lot of people go through that. So
and a lot of people don't like to talk about them.
Right, absolutely,
because there's shame behind it.
Right, because you would look at you or look at anybody else. You're like, oh yeah, I'm sure everything's perfect. They don't really see the times you're shutting the bathroom door and crying or breaking down or not knowing what to do or what school to put somebody in. It's frustrating. And
and so I wanted to draw my inspiration from those. And so I started putting words that were impactful to me on the jewelry. And one of the most impactful phrases, I guess, it became my motto, was choose joy. And this was hard for me to talk about for quite a while, but it's almost part of my healing process. But during the divorce, I had never, ever had depression or anxiety or anything. But during that time, you just feel so dark and lonely, and, it just takes over. And so I tried to kill myself. And I saw my son's bike when I was in the garage, and I just thought, what are you doing? You have like 3 kids. And so I took that motto on, and it was just every day, like, you've got to get up, you've got to find a reason to choose joy. And so that was for my kids. Which I think, first of all, kudos to you for sharing your story, because so many people and I have people close to me very close to me who've tried to take their own life, and that's their story to tell, so I won't share who, but it's tough, like being on the outside and seeing that happen to somebody, or, whether they succeed or not. It's a tough story, and it's something that not enough people talk about. So the fact that you could take that experience and, thank goodness that you saw the little bike. Exactly. And it's just like, it's almost like it snapped, and I thought, okay, you've got to pull yourself together. And So I started getting out of bed. I started listening to worship music every morning, and there was just one song in particular that became my anthem. And so that's kind of the journey that led me to the inspiration pieces and everything. So,
and that's what I thought was unique when I saw your pieces, because I've seen you have a number that say choose joy on them.
I have a lot when I want to create something new and I don't know what to put on it. I always do choose joy because that's just my thing. And my friends would send me things in the mail, from Georgia. They would send me things in the mail that said choose joy, or I had someone send me a shirt that said you are so worth loving. And so those things were so meaningful to me, and so that's what I want my jewelry to be. That's kind of the arena that I've moved into, is I want my jewelry to encourage, impact, and empower other women or anyone who are going through a struggle and that need to feel like they are loved, or that they're worthy, or that they're enough. And so that's what I want to do.
And that is so, I just think that's the coolest thing. That's why I was so drawn to it. I was like, okay, because my necklace says no limits, which you made for me, which is awesome. And there were so many pieces on there that whatever, that's what it is for me. But I think everybody's got that phrase or that word that they just, that's their kind of oomph. Because a lot of times we don't, most of us, and I hope all of us, have someone they can go to when they're feeling down or feeling depressed. But sometimes it's just a matter of, I just need a little simple reminder. So to see it on a necklace or, another piece of jewelry, I love that. I think I'm a big jewelry and accessories person anyway, but if you can combine the feel-good aspect of it, I think that's awesome.
And I have had so many people write to me and tell me that they've actually taken off their piece of jewelry and given it to someone else.
Oh, cool.
When they comment on it, like, oh, my most popular word is enough. And I really try to promote that. It's like, you are enough. Yeah. No matter what you're going through, you are enough. And so I have an enough collection. And so, people, they comment on it and they just take it off and give it to them. And so that's kind of,
I think that's super cool, because I've gotten a lot of comments when I wear mine, which I love. I haven't taken it off yet because I may have to get some extras to get it. But it's true. I mean, enough is, I could see why that's a popular one, because I feel like I have the opportunity to work with a lot of women, and very successful women. And even the people that you look at, you're like, oh my gosh, they've got this great job and this great husband and their kids with the perfect little bows. Those people, not all of them, but a large number of them, still feel like, I'm not, I'm not enough. I'm not performing the way I should be. I'm not making as much as I should, or my kids aren't behaving the way, you've experienced that. And we have to realize, I mean, you have a child with, obviously on the autism spectrum, that behaviors aren't the way that we envision them when they're little. And same thing with my youngest. Sometimes we're rolling the dice, and it's, you just kind of see, and you don't love them any less, but you have to realize it's not you, that you're still enough. So. Right.
And I like to, encourage women to embrace their imperfections. And that's why with my jewelry, my hair hanging there, it's really rough around the edges.
Yep.
I don't want my little letters to be perfectly lined up.
Right.
Because our life is not perfect.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's, paralleling the messiness of life with the jewelry. And not that the jewelry is messy, but it's,
no, they're beautiful pieces, but they're each unique. I mean, you're hand doing them, so none of the two look alike.
Yeah, I hand make every one of them. I hammer them, I paint them, I file them, glaze them. It's just, it's a really, a lot of love goes into it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I look at something, I'm like, oh, that letter's up a little bit. But you know what? I really like that, because it's not perfect. And, with the agates, you have on one of the agate ones.
Yep.
And with those, they're really fragile. And so I like to tell people it's like our heart. And so you have to be careful with it, because you don't want to break it, just like your heart. I know it's really cheesy, and I'm a cheesy person, but that's okay. I have a lot of...
We can embrace the cheese. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, so we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little more into kind of what those words are that we're hearing a lot and that we're feeling a lot, and how to uncover that for yourselves. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, it's Kristen. Be sure and visit my website at www.andregroup.com. That's www.andree group.com. And while you're there, be sure to download my white paper, Top 10 Reasons Your Business Isn't Growing Fast Enough. Now get out there and create your no limits moment. Welcome back, everyone, to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are here with Ashley Valdes of Willow Ash. And before the break, we were talking, well, first of all, we were talking about your very cool jewelry that I am a little bit fearful I may go broke at Christmas time with some ordering. But with that, we were talking about words and kind of the words that are most popular. You mentioned enough. Mm-hmm. What else are you seeing? Because you've got a great new piece on there.
I do. This is a newer piece that has just exploded. Yep. Because a lot of my customers buy something for someone going through a hard time. Yeah. And this necklace was meant for that. Yep. It has several different pieces on it. It says, you are loved, valued, worthy, and enough. And so those are words to me that I didn't feel. Yeah. That it's just, I had a hard time believing those things about myself for a little bit. And I just want people to feel loved and valued and worthy and enough. And so when you open up a gift and it says that, it's just affirmations of who you are, like you are enough.
And I think when you give that to somebody, that's just like I got chills. I never get chills unless somebody's singing really good. But it is true because how many times do you almost are longing to hear that and you don't hear it? Because I feel like we go through life on this treadmill where everything's just, you go to work, you come home, you take care of the kid. It's just this monotony. Mm-hmm. And we don't stop enough to feel okay about ourselves. And we don't stop enough to tell other people that they're loved and valued. And was it worthy? Yes. Love, valued, worthy, and enough. Exactly. So that's very cool.
Like your opinion matters, your voice matters, you have value, you can bring something to the table. Yep. And so that's kind of the background of this.
I think it's very cool. Now because you're an entrepreneur, so you're selling, this is your business now.
It is.
And you're doing this mostly, you've got your website, but it's spreading really through Facebook.
Yeah. A lot of my business comes through Facebook. I've just started pushing a little bit more traffic to the website because it's been a work in progress, but, Facebook gives me the platform to share my story, and really that is, people can identify with a story and they can relate to you. And so initially I wanted Willow Ash to just be jewelry, but I'm trying to make it to a brand because I want to be an encouragement to people. And
that's actually what intrigued. The piece was beautiful when I saw it, but what intrigued me the most was the story. Mm-hmm. And Isaac and I, my producer, were talking about this morning, is how big storytelling's getting. Mm-hmm. Because so much, everything's just, we have so much throwing at us, so many bits of information. You can find anything on the internet. But unless somebody's really finding something they're connecting to emotionally, it's harder. It's just like a sea of sameness. So I love the fact that there's a story behind it.
And I was scared at first to be vulnerable because there's just, shame. I'm the first one out of my group of people. I grew up very conservative, and I'm the first one to go through a divorce and things like that. And so it's just, there's a lot of shame behind it. Yeah. But, during something else that I don't talk a lot about is I actually became anorexic during that time because I was so stressed out that I couldn't eat. Yeah. I lost 20 or 30 pounds within 2 months. I did have baby fat on me still from having a baby, but it made it really difficult because I was nursing and I wasn't producing milk. And so it just seemed like such a selfish thing, and it wasn't an intentional thing, but it was wrapped around stress. And so, it's just.
But what I admire so much about you and your story is there are millions of people out there who've, I've been through divorce, tons of people have eating disorders, bad relationships, infidelity. Just there's so many things, struggles with children. And we tend to want to have this perfect life and perfect picture out there. And mine is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. No one's is. But I feel like it's so admirable that you're able to share the story. I think that's super, super cool.
Thank you.
Like it, but it makes people connect with you. It's not that, I mean, like I said, the jewelry is beautiful and they're going to buy the jewelry. But when they hear your story, you're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so is feeling like this. Or, I have a friend with an eating disorder, or, my friend Susie just went through a divorce. They're able to really visualize a person. I always tell people, when you're describing the work you do or who you do it for, I want people to be able to picture someone. So if you're saying, oh, this is the necklace, it says that, I mean, immediately I go to, oh, I know exactly who needs that necklace. So it's, the storytelling is right. Great. And it is the vulnerability. I mean, there's a lot of courage and vulnerability.
Yeah. And Brene Brown,
love her.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
The power
you're
of
daring greatly, girl, with this.
That's, I was reading that through everything and she kind of gave me a little kick in the butt to be vulnerable. And
that's a huge thing. And Brene I'm a huge fan of her. Her stuff is fantastic. And it's about stepping out there. But look what cool stuff is happening because of this. I mean, one, you've got a business.
Yes.
And, you've got 3 kids to support and a new fiance. And, it gives you the opportunity not only to financially help yourself and your family, but it's helping a lot of other people.
Yeah, the thing that I really, really, really love the most is getting emails or messages from people that have either are new followers and say, I can relate to you so much, or old friends on Facebook that saw the depression and saw where I am now and just would write and say, I am so proud of you.
Yeah,
look
absolutely.
at how far you've come. And so, to me, that's why I do this.
I think that's huge. I mean, because I know that everybody listening, we've been there. We've all just had those. I mean, I was not nice in most times during my divorce.
Oh, I was such a mess. I mean, I was a train wreck.
Hot mess on any given day. And you get through it. You get on the other side of it. And not everybody does, unfortunately. Fortunately, you did. I did. But you never forget kind of what it felt like to be there. You don't want to go back.
No.
To any of the pains, whether it's relational, medical, any of the challenges people have. While you don't want to go back there, you never lose that. Oh, I don't want that feeling again. So to have something to help somebody that's in the same situation, I think is awesome.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily have to be divorce or anorexia. It could just be a job or that they're struggling in, or it's really
I have friends that, and obviously you're catered towards women, which I work with a lot of women as well. And they may not have, like you said, it may not be a milestone event, but I have some friends and people I know that they don't think they're enough or good enough. And it's through no fault of theirs, nothing they've done. That's not a bad situation. But I think sometimes as women, we question ourselves and whether or not we're, we're supposed to be. So that little encouragement from friends to be able to say, you are.
It's an ongoing struggle for me. This morning, even when trying to decide what to wear, I thought, oh, well, looking at previous people, they're so dressed up. That's not me. You just have to be you. And so it's an ongoing thing of finding your worth and being okay with who you are.
And being comfortable in you. And it doesn't have to be anybody else. I don't care. People tease me all the time because I'm in 90. I mean, we all know I'm in black head to toe, 99 days out of 100. But I like that because I like jewelry and I like shoes. And black is a good palette to show that off.
So. And I needed my blue jeans.
Exactly. And I'm totally fine with that. So it's really embracing who you are.
Exactly.
Which I feel like is an opportunity for all of us. I mean, you went through some struggles and challenges to be able to kind of figure out where that inner strength was.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of us have to do that. Some people don't. But either whether you've been through traumatic experiences or you haven't, there's always that part of us that we've got to figure out, all right, what's inside? Like, where's my fire? What's motivating and exciting me? So,
something that I struggled with in the past was feeling like I couldn't do anything without my ex-husband.
Yeah.
Because we had been together since we were 17. My identity was in him.
Wrapped up. Yeah.
And he was with Chick-fil-A, actually. And so my identity became Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
And it was Chick-fil-A this, Chick-fil-A that. And I was happy to support him and everything.
Yep.
But Chick-fil-A is very super conservative, and since we are not in that world anymore, I now have my tattoos and my nose ring and things
you're
like
allowed
that.
to do that.
And
Yeah.
I feel so much more comfortable in my own skin than trying to fit a mold that I wasn't, and it's okay.
And I feel like a lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time, if we're trying to fit in a mold that isn't us, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be frustrating and sad, and it feels
heavy.
Heavy. And like you said, you need something to kind of lighten it a little bit. So I love the fact that you were able to uncover that. So what advice do you have for people who feel like they're kind of in that mold that's not them? I mean, how do you break out of that?
That's tough, because it took a lot for me to break out of that mold.
It's not easy.
No, it's not. But you just have to reach really, really deep within and just don't be scared. I mean, you have to be brave and be vulnerable. And when you start being vulnerable and being yourself, then that's where it's at.
Yeah. So. I think you're spot on. I think it's embracing the vulnerability, letting people see that, because then you're authentically you, and the right people are going to find you.
Right.
The people that are meant to be there.
I always wanted to be a people pleaser, and I wanted to do all the right things, and the people that are in my life, they love me, and this is who I am. And if I'm not going to please everybody, and it's okay. I don't have to please. I don't have to be a people pleaser.
And that's part of being secure in who you are, is kind of figuring that out. So if you are yourself, the right people will find you. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back in just a few minutes. Everyone, check out my podcast, No Limits with Kristen Andre, on Tuesday nights at 7:30. We will tackle the things holding you back and the limits you set on yourself, and equip you with some strategies to lead more intentional lives. Podcast launches every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on Facebook.com/Andre Group. That's Facebook.com/ANDREE Group. We'll see you there. Welcome back, everyone, to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are wrapping up our time with Ashley Valdes of Willow Ash, and we were talking about words and affirmations and kind of the story behind your designs, which I just am impressed. Like, I really, really am, because I love anything that there's a heart behind it. And the fact that you've been able to make a good business, like, that's helping people, it's cool.
That reminds me, I was able to donate to the Cherokee Family Violence Center, because during the month of August and September, part of my donations went, or part of the purchases were donated to Cherokee Family Violence Center. So that's just a little
awesome.
A little extra.
All right. So doing good for others and others. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything you can't do here with this.
Oh gosh.
No, but it's, you're helping a lot of people in a really cool way, and in a way that's truly authentic to you. So anytime a business comes out of somebody's passion or their story or their history, I'm all on board. Like, I just think it's the coolest thing, because so many of us don't listen to those nudges we have and kind of the things that are like, oh, you know what, this could help somebody else, or I'd really enjoy doing this. And I think the fact that you've shared your story is part of what the draw is.
Yeah, I've always wanted to help other people, but I didn't know how, and so this just kind of fell into my lap, and I'm running with it.
But it didn't fall into your lap, though. I think you're pretty intentional with it in terms of, and like you said, you've had help. So Justin had recommended, film a video or do this or tell your story, but it's all come out of your experiences.
Yeah. And I have to say, I am proud of myself for how
totally
far I have come, because I did feel like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And there's been lots of times where I wanted to give up, not only on the jewelry, but just in life. And so it's okay to feel proud of yourself. It's not a cocky thing. It's just like,
absolutely. Yeah.
good job.
No, but I think, and that's what's super cool. You should totally feel proud of yourself. I mean, I'm sitting here going, man, you know, in my early 30s, I'm like, I was working a corporate job doing what I thought I was supposed to do. And I don't know that there was consciously, I mean, I donated, volunteered, things like that. But I don't know if there was consciously an effort at a young age to like, how can I really make an impact and help people who've been in my similar situation, or even who've just been in any situation that just might need a little bit of encouragement. Right. So I think it's cool. So I don't like it. All right. So every episode we issue a challenge to our listeners, really just to two things. One, to get them to engage and start talking, because No Limits and the podcast is all about really helping people push past limits. So we've got this cool page on Facebook, which I know you're big on Facebook. It's at #NoLimitsMoment. And every episode we issue a challenge. So this episode, you know, what are you going to challenge our listeners to do?
Okay. I think that you should challenge them to find their word.
Okay.
And what's meaningful to them, what they identify with, what motivates them, just their word of affirmation.
I think that's a great one. And so whether it's a word or a short phrase, like whether it's no limits, enough, whatever, I think that's a great one. So find your word, share it on our Facebook group, because I think this might be a little recon too, because my guess is if we start seeing enough of you guys with the same word, we might find a piece of jewelry coming up soon with it on there. Because it does. It's something, I mean, I want your word to be something that inspires you and motivates you and makes you realize that, man, I can really overcome whatever limits out there.
Right.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What's next for this?
For Willow and Ash, or for life,
you,
or
for everything. So I mean, the jewelry, you've got fantastic pieces, and I'm sure those will continue to grow and gain a lot more popularity because it is really inspiring. But what about you? What's next for you?
I'm getting married in July.
Congratulations!
And we're gonna have just a fun ceremony with our little boys and involve them in it and everything.
Think that's awesome.
And then as far as Willow and Ash goes, I was telling you I'm not great at speaking, but that's the avenue that I want to take this into, is to just continue sharing my story and impacting others, and just continuing to be vulnerable and giving hope to people.
You like how I asked that loaded question, because I knew what you were going to have to say, because, ladies and gentlemen, that means that now that it's recorded, we got it on tape, that means we get to do it, right? I feel like you've got a fantastic story, and it would just be, I think, an honor to the people that get to hear it, for you to put that out there. I mean, you're already doing it through your jewelry and through your videos and your website and everything, but I mean, I think you'd be great at that. I think it'd be a story that's definitely worth sharing.
Thank you.
So I wish you tons of luck with it. And I want to make sure we got that recording down, so we knew that Miss Ashley here is going to be our next big speaker. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You guys check out Willow and Ash Designs, and we'll post a link on the show notes. But find your word. Figure out what that word of affirmation is. Post it at our #NoLimitsMoments page on Facebook, and let's see what you got. So until next week, keep pushing past those limits.